The real content of any kind of revolutionary thrust lies in the principles and the goals that you're striving for, not in the way you reach them.
You are now listening to Musings Behind the Creative. What's your passion? Hi, and welcome to another episode of Musings Behind the Creative. And I am Renata Dixon Nwosu. And today I thought I'd talk a little bit about how do you set yourself a research question? How do you inform your research question as a designer? What is it about something in life that you're questioning? And why do you want to question that thing? So my example is I'd studied fine art, fashion textiles, and I'd gone into knitwear as well for a bit. And then I moved into interiors and then architectural, or should I say architecture. So the history of art and design, in every single one of those areas, you go through, your history, the critical history and thinking of that practice. And it never really occurred to me until I started my master's that I had consumed so much Western history and culture. I knew a lot about many different design movements, genres, artistic movements, the critical thinking behind it, the reasons behind it, what the everyday people thought. And I was like, what were the contributions of black people to this history? Like, I realized that I'd actually never really seen any black history on arts movements. What was black people's contribution to those art movements, to those influences, to those inspirations? And whereby on my previous courses, I'd had student loan. The perks about going to the RCA is that you're not getting a student loan for it. If you want a middle-class private schooling tutelage in the UK, you pay through the nose. That's what's going to happen. That's the sufferation and sacrifice you make. So I was like, okay, so I got into the RCA, fine. Maybe I'm paying for this course. I'm gonna just do research on African architecture. And then I thought, whoa, that's Africa is not one country, so that's not really gonna work. That's too wide of a spectrum. And I thought, okay, what do I know? Okay, Nigeria. Again, too wide of a spectrum. Igbo architecture. I was like, okay. The fact that I am an Igbo person, and at that point, I had no knowledge of what Igbo architecture was in itself fantastical. Like, I was confused. I was like, wow, oh, okay. Igbo architecture. And it was like, and this is the research question you wanna... Yeah, I'll keep dealing with myself, this is it, I'm paying for it. You do know this might be a little bit difficult. In fact, in your whole history of interior design and architecture, did you even see the black architects or designers? No. Okay. So you didn't see them. and now you're going to go and research the potentially a black hole that you don't even know. You have nothing. You don't know compass. How are you going to do this? I was like, well, okay. I was like, well, you bit the bullet now. Go figure it out. So, first thing I realized was that when you start your research, it's really difficult. For instance, I had grown up thinking that the way to spell Igbo was IGBO. First thing I came across in the history was like, not only is there IGBO, there's IBO. And I was thinking, I don't get, like, I speak the language, I know the culture. You know the culture, but you don't even know that the culture has its own architectural style. Okay, sit down. So I'm like, okay, how comes I don't know this? How comes I don't know this? And then that got me also thinking, okay, so where, in all the architectural historical libraries, let me just speak properly, who are the black writers? I don't know, I started to scratch my head. I was like, okay, so my top 3 favorite architects, none of them were black. Like exquisite people, like amazing. Their way of thinking, amazing. None of them were black. I was like, where are we in all of this? Where are the black people in all of this? I feel hidden, bruv. Like, I feel like I'm out here, I'm looking into the world, and wow, like, we're not there. Like, it was really confusing. And I didn't really quite know how to deal with this psychosis I was going through, like, just questioning everything. And it was just like, oh, okay. And then I was the amazing thing about going to the RCA is that, like, I realized that in as much as I'd had great educational experiences in my previous universities, they were absolute trash in comparison to access. So we were told about all these different kinds of archives, museums, places of knowledge I was thinking, in this London, in this type of London that I've grown up in, I practically, I came to the UK when I was 3, so you could say I was born here. Like, I don't know these things. I don't know these things, like, but they exist. So it's like, okay, so we start getting access, and we could go and get, like, one of the closest universities was SOAS. Who is SOAS, bruv? School of Oriental and African Studies, Wait, there's a place just for Africans. I was like, wow, okay. And then I got there and, walked up to the top library. And the thing about me, I've always loved books. My dad realized that I loved books. So we'd have, I think, monthly visits to, like, Waterstones where I'd just be immersed. I love the smell of fresh books. Like, it's such a comforting smell for me. And I'd sit there, like, I think my dad would let us sit there for like an hour and a half, and we just pick whatever we wanted. So it was almost like that experience as a child, and then being a grown adult and walking into this library, and it's this library of a history of me that I was never aware of. Like, it was bittersweet for me. Like, it was hard. Like, to as far as, like, so being Igbo, I know how my mum grew up, her side, I know how my dad's side grew up, but I just know they're, like, everyday experiences. I didn't know of, like, the political movements that were happening there. And, when it's discussed, it's just discussed, like, as stories. Like, you don't really you're not really able to make the differentiation that, okay, in this, my parents' life experience in this country, this was the political tensions, this was the connections or the feelings of the different tribal communities. Like, I didn't have a clue. So to get to a part, and it was like, the guy I was dating at the time was from Bayelsa in Nigeria, and it's just like, before I'd met him, I didn't even know that there were Bayelsans in Nigeria. Like, I knew the 3 main tribes. I wasn't aware of this, the 138 sub-languages. What does that even mean? Like, if that's the case and it's 138 sub-languages, that means the tribal connections, the way the relationship and the culture kind of like blend, and like the further away you are on either spectrum, you know, you could go from understanding certain parts of a language to not even understanding the language of your fellow Nigerian, and yet you're apparently all from the same country. Me, I don't get. So it was humbling, and it was sad that the only way I was able to get access to this was because I decided to ask myself a question and actually go down the rabbit hole and actually start studying it. And it has definitely shaped who I am now and how I think. And in order to like summarize, the way I'd say it would be, if there is a question that bothers you or you're curious about, start with that question. Look at all the areas, you could do it like a spider diagram. Look at all the areas you think it's connected to, and then do that research and see what comes out from there. Literally, just follow the rabbit hole. Just follow the rabbit, go down the rabbit hole. And if things, like, I don't believe you could be like a full-on creative and then maybe like, or maybe you can, but I basically didn't let the ideas and thoughts and preconceptions I had of the existing world around me deter me from questioning my experience, questioning, you know, why I didn't see the greatest architects in the world, that, and the history that I was consuming and I loved exploring. But there's this thing in the back of your mind that's just always like, bro, like, I don't see me, bro. So what does that mean for like what I can achieve? What level of possibilities do I have? Okay, I see like great, talented architectural male and female counterparts having their own practices. You know, like, okay. How many black practices are there? Oh, you know what, maybe that one's too hard. How many black architects do you see on websites that says they're either mid to high level management, and that you actually see their pictures on the websites? I asked this question because when I was looking for work, I would go on the websites, and if I didn't see a black person there, I was a bit like, ugh. It was the equivalent of like when I picked what college I was going to go to. And I say picked because we had a career professional person came to the school to give us a pep talk, and they basically said, you know, put yourself in a position where you don't, universities don't, or colleges don't pick you. You pick the universities, you pick the colleges. So I was thinking, yeah, like I want to have a say in where I go, even though I would have to clear it with my parents, but I did the research first so I could go back to them and say, well, actually I'm going here and these are the reasons. So I grew up in Tottenham, and Tottenham was very multicultural back then, and that's pretty much all I'd known. And one of the colleges that I was really interested in going to was Barnet College, because like their art school was top notch, and I was ready for that. But I took the bus from Totty to Barnet, and I went through like Wood Green sides, and you get to a point like just a little bit past Palmer's Green, and the bus got very, very, very low in multiculturalism, and it got to a point where it was just only English people, and I felt very, very vulnerable. I was like, wow, wait, can you do this journey every day? Like, well, you'll get to a point in the morning that obviously the bus won't be you won't feel so safe on the bus. Can you do that? And then when I got to the Barnet College, loved it. I thought that journey, every day, it's not worth it, bro. It's not worth it. So I didn't go Barnet. And when you make those type of decisions, and then you get to the point that I got to where I was like, where are we though? Why am I allowing these things to be the way or the thinking that shapes the rest of my life and how I operate and how I make my decisions and how I move? And I thought, right, okay. Yeah, let's try something different. So, that's in conclusion. Like, follow the hard questions. Don't be afraid of the hard questions. Learn the history. See how everything connects. Treat it very much like you have a hypothesis and you test the hypothesis. And, all of that will lead you to different thinking, different thought patterns, discussing things with different people. Everything in your life is a clue. Everything, the subtext, everything in your life, how you experience it, is a clue to how or why things are the way they are, people react the way they react. And I think as creatives, we should question those things and say, well, if these are clearly the problems, let's try something different. And it's not to say that what I'm saying is not happening, but some people kind of get to a point and they're like, no, this is a lot, this is very difficult, like I shouldn't really be doing this. And they decide to stay in the safe zone. But in the very difficult spaces, in every area of your life, if you are able to walk through that difficult space or crawl, however you get through, if you're able to get through that, what's on the other side is so much more rewarding that it's just like, wow, you look back like, I really did do that. Cool. But that's all I have for this episode of Musings Behind the Creative. Like I said, if you like the content, you want to share your stories, please send us your comments, inbox us, and you can find Musings Behind the Creative at Studio RDN-x, and you can find me, Renata Dixon Nwosu, at Loma Medici.